It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Good to have you all with us on this Wednesday edition of the program. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Kurt Helin will drop by. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. Get some thoughts with him around the Eastern and Western Conference. Also some other stories around the league. I got to get his opinion on the dunk heard around the world the other night with Anthony Edwards and John Collins. And also Jalen Johnson, who had one against the Lakers over Austin Reeves. I want to get his opinion on which of the two he liked more, because Sam and I debated that topic yesterday. By the way, Sam Yarnell with the day off. Much deserved. He will be back here tomorrow. David Aardsma, former big league pitcher, pitched for 9 seasons in Major League Baseball, 8 different teams. We'll go around with him and get some thoughts on some topics around Major League Baseball as we approach the start of the baseball season, beginning in just a couple of days in Korea with the Dodgers and the Padres, which will be very interesting to watch as well. Odds and ends, all of that good stuff, but we start things out in college basketball, where, look, Colorado State last night did what it had to do against a Virginia team that just continues to show how offensively challenged they are. And you know there's going to be a lot of people out there today, and rightly so, screaming about the fact that St. John's, Seton Hall, you run through the list of teams that feel like they got jobbed in favor of a team like Virginia in this play-in, first 4 10 versus 10 game. Virginia shot, and it is unfathomable to think that an ACC college basketball team shot 25%. They made, just let this sink in for a second. They made 14 baskets in 40 minutes. Let's just sit in that for a second as you look at the highlights from last night's game. 14 baskets. And you have to ask yourself as a program, and I know the Colorado, or rather the Virginia coach, Tony Bennett, said, we have to start re-examining sort of what our program is. When you go into an NCAA tournament game, granted it is the first 4, doesn't even count in your bracket, don't worry, and you walk out of a game having made 14 baskets. 14 shots. That's it. 3 of 17 from 3, 11 of 17 from the line. It was never even close. Colorado State advances with a 67-42 victory in one of the games last night. Maybe we should just move on to the next game. Yeah, you know what they always say, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. How about Wagner out of the NEC? And look, if we learned anything last year, remember Fairleigh Dickinson? The run that team went on? That's out of the NEC, which is where Wagner's coming from. And they're going to get an opportunity, this team out of Staten Island. I actually called a game at Wagner a long time ago when I was doing play-by-play for Central Connecticut State University men's basketball, which I did a few games here and there. So I've been to that campus. It's a tiny gym. It is not big-time college basketball at the D1 level. And this is what makes the NCAA tournament so special, is that for one night, this 16 seed in Wagner is going to be able to be on the biggest stage in the game. Just like, all those other great teams, they're going to get an opportunity. And yeah, they're going to go against North Carolina, and chances are they're going to get their doors blown off. Fine. They got their first NCAA tournament win, though. 24.5-point underdogs, according to our friends at FanDuel, the unofficial sports book of Sports Wrap. Unofficial, why? They don't pay us. But it'll be a good opportunity for Wagner and a lot of exposure for that program, and certainly something that will help them in terms of recruiting and trying to grow that program beyond what it is right now. I just want to say this as we get ready to sort of get knee deep in this tournament, especially on Thursday when the first round games get underway. And this is not a hometown bias thing. I didn't go to UConn. I grew up in Connecticut, but I didn't go to UConn. So when I say I think UConn is the best team in the country, when you think about consistency, they had an early loss to Kansas. The loss to Creighton. When you look at what UConn has been able to do this year, they are just the most consistent team, and it feels like they're playing the best basketball of those high-quality teams at the time of the year where it matters most. And that's why I think the odds makers have it right to have UConn at plus 370 right now to win this tournament. Battle-tested, and yes, I know there's been some roster turnover here from the team that won it all last year, but they're battle-tested. They have one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in all of the game. We were talking about it yesterday with UConn assistant men's basketball coach, assistant head coach, Tom Moore, who says, look, Dan Hurley's the best in the game right now. He is at the peak of his coaching abilities. And yeah, there is a peak in coaching abilities. It's not like playing, but, you do have a peak when it comes to coaching, and Dan Hurley is in that right now. And just to run through the odds once again, it is UConn at plus 370, Houston at plus 550, Purdue is at 700, Arizona is at 1,200, North Carolina is at 1,700. It is fascinating that Arizona is not a 1 seed, but has better odds than North Carolina. And then Tennessee at 1,700, and you can continue to go on and down the list. What's Yale? Plus 50,000. Let's go Yale. How bad do we want to see a UConn-Yale Sweet 16 game? Might get it. So that's the first four in the first two games. Two more games on Wednesday. Grambling and Middle Tennessee State, Colorado and Boise State. We'll have a recap on tomorrow's show. Sam will be back at that time. We're coming back. Let's do some NBA with Kurt Helin. It's Sports Wrap on a Wednesday.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022, and the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can use your information in ways that are easy to miss by just monitoring accounts and credit, like opening loans, transferring home titles, even committing crimes.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
You can do so much with a social security number that I didn't know could happen.
They drained my bank account. It was terrifying.
You're even more vulnerable than you realize. Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place, like someone trying to use your social security number, open a new loan in your name, or even commit a crime in your name.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button. I clicked, that's not me, and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will be assigned to your case and work to fix the issue on your behalf.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts up to $1 million. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. With LifeLock, it's easy to help protect yourself.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock. And for a limited time, save 25% on your first year with promo code 25TV. All plans include a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Call 800-710-7531.
Or visit lifelock.com/25TV to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
All right, Sports Wrap continues on this Wednesday. Still got a lot to do as we roll through the program. Let's bring in our friend. There he is. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Hanging out on the show today. Get into it with him for a few minutes on the NBA. And Kurt, how do you sort of size up where we are start in the West? We always start in the East, so let's start in the West. How do you size up where we are in the West right now with just a few games left in the season?
Well, look, it's Denver remains the bar. And I think we've been saying since we started doing this and look, and before, like, Denver's the team to beat. But in the West, I'm more fascinated with how the West is going to shake out because there's so much more volatility, because I think they're more vulnerable. Like it's a deeper conference, so they just feel a little more vulnerable than Boston does in the East. And it's all going to be about matchups. It's all going to be about who starts. And now you're starting to see juggling for whom. The Pelicans and the Clippers seem on a 4-5 trajectory, and that is bad for the Clippers. If you watched this game the other week, the Clippers do not match up well with the Pelicans. And the team I was high on 2 months ago, I'm like, I don't know if they're getting out of the first round right now. Like, I'm not sure that I'm not picking the Pelicans to come out of that. They could catch them. And then you've got how good is Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Oklahoma City and Minnesota. And then it all just comes down to, like, who's 7 and 8 and how can I avoid, look, I don't really want a piece of Luka Doncic in Dallas. If it's the Lakers and I'm the Thunder, I don't want to be like, it's all going to be about who matches up with whom.
You know what's interesting though? I mean, look, you can make arguments from either side. If you're the Lakers about who you don't want to see, I think every team has probably got a number of teams when you look at the West that you say we don't want to play that team. I wonder if we make more of it in the media. I'm media. I wonder sometimes if we make more of it than the players do. If the players are just like, hey, man, throw at us what you throw at us. Am I wrong?
No, I think players in particular don't care. I think coaches and front offices care a little more because they look at the matchups and are like, hey, we've got a chance. If you're Golden State, who I think has again, I think if they can get out of the play-in, there is a chance for a run in them. But
I thought Stephen Curry said it best the other night. He's like, he made the point. He made the exact point. It doesn't matter what matchups we are. If we play like this, we're not beating anybody.
That's exactly it. But if they get a big team, they're in trouble. They don't match up well with size. If they get Minnesota.
But that's the same for Oklahoma City, isn't it? That's the same for Oklahoma City. I was talking with somebody the other day on Twitter that covers the Thunder, and he said the same thing. He's like, if we match up against a bunch of bigs, we're screwed.
Yeah, they can get pushed around. They are a little bit small. Even they're really good defenders. Dort and stuff are a little small. Chet, we'll let you in on a secret here, Jason. I'm not sure Chet is thick enough yet. Like Chet may need to put on some weight, and we'll see how much he can even put on. That's a topic for another day. You look at Wemby and you see kind of the broad shoulders and you're like, he's never going to look like Shaq, but he can get thicker and wider and more muscular. I'm not sure how much Chet is. I think Chet just may be thin.
Talk to me a little bit about the East right now, where, it's as much as we talk about the bar in basketball being Denver, the bar in the East right now has to be the Celtics still. I keep hearing people talk about my Knicks though, as if they are healthy, that they could have. I've heard people talk about them in the context of a championship run. Is that a bit too far for you?
Some people have been taking those gummies a little early in the day, man. That's a little too much. But conference finals run is absolutely within reason.
Well, but I mean, if you get to the conference finals, I mean,
you get to the conference finals, you got a puncher's chance. You right. First off, I think they need to find a way to climb over stumbling Cleveland and get that 3. So you don't want to be on the Boston side of the bracket. But beside that, it really does for them come down to health. OG Anunoby's out again with a flare-up in his elbow that's already been surgically repaired. We don't have Julius Randle back. As great as Hartenstein has played at center defensively, you would like to get Mitchell Robinson back in there. So if you can get all those guys healthy, they've got a chance. This is a gritty, grinding team. Brunson going to make plays in the playoffs. Josh Hart's going to make plays in the playoffs. It's just a matter of getting them right. But all honestly, I still think the team that gives everybody nightmares is what if Milwaukee gets it together. And they got Chris Middleton back over the weekend. He was moving pretty well and looked good. If he clicks in with them, they just got a really good top 4. They've got a chance.
Are we sleeping on Philadelphia because, they're sort of treading water here without Embiid? Are we sleeping on them considering they should have him back for the postseason?
Yes, I think. Look, if Embiid is back, and I think the real key here isn't just physically back, he is back to being MVP level Embiid, then yes, they are. Nobody has a matchup for him. He is a nightmare, and then you can play Maxey just looks better as that second option, and Tobias Harris suddenly fits in better, and all the pieces come together better. So yes, but now they're coming out of the play-in probably. They're the 6th as we speak. They are probably going to be 7 or 8 and have to play their way through a gauntlet to get out of it.
Yeah, they certainly are. Keeping our eye on the East, and we talk about matchups in the West. Do you feel the same way when you talk about the East as far as the matchups are concerned, or do you think there's that some of those teams are more flexible in terms of those matchups?
I think they're a little more flexible. I think that again, I think the East becomes more about, hey, can Philadelphia get healthy? Can New York get healthy? Can Cleveland get Donovan Mitchell all the way now out with broken nose for a week?
It's amazing.
Who's healthiest? Who's got health and depth coming into the playoffs is going to matter more than specific matchups, because there's a lot of potentially good teams that are stumbling right now just due to health.
And by the way, it feels like we're almost back to the days of when we used to talk about the East versus the West and which conference is more dominant. I mean, the 10 seed in the East is Atlanta at 30 and 38.
Yes. And they're not good.
No, unless they're really not.
Unless they're playing the Clippers. And then apparently the other night they were just, which might say more about the Clippers right now. That's the difference. The 10 seed, the 10 seed in the West right now is, I believe, still the Lakers, right? It's
10
Lakers
seed in the West could come out of the West. I mean, and you never would think that in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, exactly. The 10 seed has a chance.
We're hanging out with Kurt Helin. He's going to join us for another segment. A few things I want to run through with him, including the announcement of a player that's going to retire or is retiring, and a look back at his career. We'll talk about that as we continue on Sports Wrap. All right, let's keep things moving with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, who hangs out with us on the show. I'm usually lucky enough to get him every week. Checks in the mail. All right, the more impressive dunk, Kurt Helin. Anthony Edwards basically destroying everything in sight, including his finger. The look on the players' faces on his own team when this happened the other night was crazy.
Yeah.
First of all, talk about the Edwards dunk. He literally just destroyed Collins. He just destroyed the man. Versus Jalen Johnson over Austin Reeves. First of all, talk about Edwards.
Edwards is still the better dunk, and that's saying something, because the dunk on Reeves by Johnson was impressive, but the power behind Anthony Edwards when he dunks, he is a throwback. A lot of people talk about this. He feels like a throwback 90s kind of player.
He does.
In a lot of ways, not only because he likes some isolation, but the power with which he plays, the physicality with which he attacks is more reminiscent of that era when you kind of had to play that way to get through what was allowed physically, right? Like you could just hack guys. So you had to be Jordan-esque going to the rim that strong. And guys could do that now, but that's another topic. He plays that way, and the strength where he took off, the strength of that, and just decimating Collins. That is, I'm not even sure that's the dunk of the year. That might be like up in the dunk of the decade list. Like that's one we're going to be showing highlights of for a long time, which kind of sucks for Johnson because he would have led the top 10 on SportsCenter. He would have been everywhere with that dunk over Reeves any other night.
Let's just say it though. Johnson's junk basically hit, Austin Reeves in the head. I mean, there was some humiliation there.
There was, and I enjoyed. I don't know if you watch. You can go on YouTube, find Dan Wojcicki, the LA Times NBA writer, who just asked Reeves about it. And Reeves like, everybody saw that, right? And Dan's response was, well, nobody had your view.
That is fantastic. And you know what? Credit to both Collins and Reeves for this, by the way. There's a lot of guys in this league that make business decisions and say, hey, I'm just getting out of the way. And in this era of the NBA, we see that more times than not.
Yes.
Both of those guys got in the line of fire.
Exactly. I'm never that. I'm always happy to see somebody get dunked on in the sense that they at least tried to contest. They at least went for the charge or went up to try to get it, as opposed to doing just what you said, which was what so many guys do. And otherwise, it starts to look like the All-Star game.
I think of Rex Chapman on X, formerly known as Twitter these days, when he says blocker charge.
It is. I've got a blocker charge shirt. I got to wear that one of these days.
It's fantastic. Yes, you should wear it on here one of these days. It was fantastic to see. Kurt, give me a thought on the career of Derrick Rose, because I was thinking about this before I got you on today. And there's a lot of guys who you can do this sort of argument with of, is their career what it could, is it when you think about their career, is it what it could have been, or B, what it was? And I know the cop-out answer, well, it could be both. But if you had to choose one with Derrick Rose, is it what could have been, or is it what it was?
I unfortunately go to what could have been. And Tom Thibodeau takes a lot of heat for that, and Joakim Noah and that whole era for how much he played guys. But who knows what would have happened physically otherwise. Rose's style of play was much like Dwayne Wade and other guys.
Allen Iverson
would have put their body at risk over time. And so, I tend to think about what could have been, what might have been. But I think because of that, sometimes we do sleep on how great his early years were. I mean, MVP in his third year, I want to say off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That level Derrick Rose was not only a great basketball player, but qualified in the way Iverson did, in the way Steph Curry does, because LeBron was talking about this the other day. There's guys you can just relate to. Like these guys, it's hard to picture yourself shooting hoops around thinking, man, I'm Kevin Durant. I'm 7 feet tall and athletically, or LeBron, or where's he at? Wemby. Good luck. Like nobody envisions themselves like that, shooting around at the playground or in the backyard or in the driveway. But you can picture yourself as Derrick Rose. You can picture yourself as Iverson. And so he had that. He had that thing. And I'll tell you, around the league, even into the final years of his career, one of the most respected locker room leaders, a guy who just people listened to. And that's why teams wanted him in the locker room.
A bit of inside basketball here, that may not pertain to everybody. But what are we to make of this story out of Minnesota with A-Rod and Mark Lore having lost the support of the Carlisle group with one payment left to get majority ownership of the T-Wolves?
I got a feeling they're going to find that money somewhere, but we'll see. I'm not an expert in high finance, and I'm sure that they were thrilled that Glenn Taylor came out and said that publicly and kind of started this ball rolling. It has been a weird ownership transition. It hasn't been how these things normally go when you just, hey, you're essentially cutting a check, right? Like there's not, sometimes there's timed installments, but there's never any like, well, I wonder if they're going to make this. Are they really going to make this? That there has been with the very public deadlines of this kind of slow changeover that frankly the team needs. So my guess is that they will find the money somewhere that when you're worth billions, you're able to find billions from other people. It's just 300 million. We can get that somewhere.
It's amazing. I've said this before. Sometimes it's easier to ask for 100 million than it is to ask for 100,000.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
because somebody knows they're going to get their money back.
Yeah, especially with the rising value of NBA franchises, right? Yep. Or sports franchise in general. It's not just an NBA thing, but somebody knows they're going to, like you said, they get a piece, they get their money back, and it's still a fun, sexy little hobby sense. You know what I mean? Like, hey, not only is it a good business investment, but I'm going to get to go meet Giannis, right? Like, I still get to do some stuff. So
I've got about 20 seconds here. Give me the one coach you think is at the greatest risk if their team stumbles down the stretch.
I was about to say Steve Clifford's already going to be out in Charlotte. I'm just going to say Darvin Ham, but barring a crazy run again, I think Darvin Ham is done as the Lakers coach.
Any ideas on who the next head coach might be?
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I'm not reading Rob Pelinka's mind, man. No,
All right.
Who does Ron want?
All right. Good stuff with Kurt Helin. Always appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Let's talk some baseball. Oh. Everybody, whenever I do this show and I talk to people and they ask me about what's your favorite thing to talk about, all that, I always tell them, if I could do an hour of baseball 6 days a week, I'd be fine. And that is the sport I grew up with. That is my passion. It is what I love. It's what I played. Not that I didn't play other sports, but baseball was always it for me. So anytime I have a chance to talk baseball, I love to do it. David Aardsma is hanging out with us on the show today, former MLB hurler. He pitched in the league for, I think, 9 years with 8 different teams. So he has some perspective to provide for sure. And David, appreciate you coming on the show. At this point in spring training, are guys just over it? At this point, are you just chomping at the bit where you're like, all right, let's just get to whatever city I'm playing in and let's just start playing games. Does it start to feel that way at this point?
Without a doubt. You're sitting there, you're checking boxes right now. You know, like if you're pitching, you're just trying to get your innings. All right, did I throw my 4? Did I throw my 5? As a reliever, am I getting my back-to-back days? That's really all you have to do. Once you build up, you get your back-to-back days, you're ready to go. The hitters, have they played their 9 innings? You're ready to go. Now there's a couple guys on every roster, right? There's just like that 25, 24, 26 guy that are trying to figure out, where their life is going to go. Are they going to get to the city or not? Those are really who it matters, for at this point. Let the team see the last couple guys on that roster, maybe that prospect that they still just want to look at, and that veteran. Are they going to make that switch right now or wait till April and May and do it later down the line? But yeah, guys are done with spring training. You're so over it.
It got me to thinking before I had John. I was like, I was trying to figure out if there's anything quite like being a relief pitcher in sports in terms of the tenuous nature of it. And it reminds me almost of being a kicker. The only thing I can think of is like kicker in the NFL, where kickers are kind of disposable and replaceable, and they move around, and you see a lot of the same ones, but they shuffle around between teams. Is that what it's like being living the life of a relief pitcher once you've been sort of typecast into that?
I've always tried to figure that comparison out. I think you get treated like a kicker on a team, right? You're kind of like that. you'll go over there. You're kind of a weirdo. We don't want to deal with you. And then when it matters, oh, hi, by the way, please make this kick for the love of God, save this game. Maybe the sixth man on some basketball teams, that guy that is a role player that you need him. You absolutely need him, but you don't know you need him until somebody has to come off the court. There's no other really spots like that because too, I think the biggest difference in any other sport is the ups and downs. Relievers out of any position in sports has this life where you're on top of the world. Everything is perfect. The team uses you every single night. Your arm is absolutely hanging. And the next year you feel the effects of it and your numbers drop. And then you start feeling good again because you don't throw a whole lot. No one wants to throw you. And then you feel great again the next year. And a lot of times the relievers numbers bounce up and down versus any other position in sports. Because of that, because like when you're going good, you're in there. You're in there every night. I threw 5 times in a row one time. 5 days in a row is insane to pitch, but that's the life of it.
I was following something. I was following you on X, and I was going through some of your tweets, and I noticed something you wrote about velocity, and it's such a hot topic in sports today. Guys' arms burning out. These hard throwers that just can't seem to stay on the field. And you were talking about, hey man, 90, 92, 93, 90, it plays, it's all about where you throw it, but there is this obsession with velocity today. As somebody who teaches pitching, as somebody who, I know you got your passion and what you do there. How do you weigh the pros versus the cons of a guy that can throw 101, 102, a Jordan Hicks versus a Nestor Cortez, who up until recently was a guy that, was a low 90s guy?
So I think the original conversation started, I think it was Chris Bassett. I might be totally wrong here on this. Someone help me if I'm wrong, please.
Yes, it was Chris Bassett. I read it. Yeah,
I'll definitely hear about it on X if I did it wrong. I think he started the conversation saying the teams are just passing over these guys are pitching very well at lower velocities versus guys at higher velocities, and I think that is the case. There are definitely a lot of things to be said about that, and I felt that at one point in my time too. The problem is usually also is that guy who had pitched really well is 35, and you'd have to bring him on a 1-year contract, pay him a lot of money, and the guy who threw 98 is 24 and he's cheap. And so there's a lot of other things to go on, and being on the front office side of things, with the Toronto Blue Jays there's a whole lot more that goes into the discussion than, wow, you pitched well. It's a lot bigger conversation than that. It's, are you going to pitch well in 5 years when you're now arbitration eligible, or 6 years when you're going to be a free agent? That's a bigger conversation versus right now. And that's maybe why some of these guys make the rosters and don't. Now, from a velocity standpoint though, all these injuries, it's the simplest of correlations. It's not why are we trying so hard to figure this out when we tell somebody in the big leagues, you're not throwing hard enough, throw harder. And then we tell somebody in college, that guy's looking at the guy in big leagues going, okay, well, he has to throw harder. I need to throw harder than him if I want to take his job. And then some guy in high school sees like, okay, well, every single scout out there, like, well, you're 90 today. Great job. And I'd like to see 92. That'll get you drafted. Okay. I heard it in high school in 2000, said you hit 90, that's the magic number, you'll get drafted. And then we're telling these guys in middle school, like, well, look at these high school guys, look at these college guys, look at these big. It's a nonstop cycle, and it will never end. Yeah. We're down the rabbit hole. It'll never end because data is just coming more and more and more. And one thing we see is the harder you throw, the less they hit it hard, and so it's a battle. We're always going to be battling. Now, what I say is, let's step back and teach these guys how to throw it healthy. Let's teach them how to be healthy and be athletes and not just throwers.
Sports Wrap continues on this Wednesday. Don't go anywhere.
Do you use Viagra or Cialis? Have you been thinking about trying Viagra or Cialis? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 or more a pill for Viagra, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pill delivers the exact same results for less than $3. We'll do the math for you. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. Want more? We'll give you 40 blue pills or 40 yellow pills for $99 and add 4 more pills free. you save more than $500. Stop overpaying for expensive prescriptions. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what to do next. You need to call now and get your 44 pills for just $99. Stop overpaying for Viagra. Call us anytime, day or night, and start saving big money for the exact same results. Have your credit card ready. Ordering is fast and easy, with your pills delivered to your door in a non-marked package. Call now.
Rolling along on this Wednesday edition of the show, David Aardsma continues to hang out with us on the program. Blake Snell gets a interesting deal with the San Francisco Giants, considering he could have had 5 for $150 million or something like that from the Yankees or potentially the Astros. What did you make of sort of, and you still got Jordan Montgomery, who's a free agent. What do you make of the way the big Boris clients have been handled both by him and teams around the league this year?
You know, one of those things that I'm seeing about this is I don't want to say those guys have been asking for too much money. I don't think actually on paper, what you're seeing the number they're asking and what they've given to players, I think they match. It's very interesting that they're not able to get it, though, that they're not able to get that lucrative deal. I mean, the one thing, too, you got to look at his guys this year. They have very interesting seasons and things about them. Blake Snell, can this guy ever throw more than 5 innings, right? Is he going to play, throws a playoff games? What is he going to do beyond just being great at striking out guys and looking really good for 5 innings? And then you look at, Jordan Montgomery, obviously his history, and we're looking at him as probably the most stable guy. But like Bellinger, big question marks about him too. Is like incredible year last year, but what are you going to give me beyond 1 year and then 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a great season? So there's a lot of these players out there, even Matt Chapman, who signed late, not necessarily, I don't even know if Chapman's a Boris guy, but there's questions about him. Is he on the downward slide? Is he going to step back up and be that guy that we knew that he used to be? And so there's kind of these questions about all of these guys. At the same time, they've all gone out there and performed on their contract year and their free agent year, and I look at it and say, man, are these teams looking at Boris and saying, we're not agreeing with how you're negotiating anymore, we're not liking this, we're not going to engage with you until we have to, and then you're going to have to engage with us? But the numbers for Snell too, I mean, we can't argue with $31 million a year, 2 years, $62 million is still nothing to be shy of. And it's, and it's not like he's the youngest player in the league. It's not like he's 25 winning Cy Youngs. He's a little bit on the older side. And so he's still getting paid a whole lot of money for production.
Are you surprised that nobody's kicked the tires on Trevor Bauer?
I'm yes and no. Yes and no. The point, a lot of people don't want to talk about this, right? We kind of say his name. It's a shadow. It's kind of in the distance. It's one of those things we don't really want to address. But there was a lot of questions about Bauer before he signed the Dodgers contract. He was attacked very aggressively. The Dodgers were attacked aggressively about his deal and bringing him in and the culture and what he was going to bring with him and the trouble and question marks about him before anything ever came out. Whether that's true or not, past then, there was question marks about it long before any accusations truly ever came out. And so I kind of sit back and go, is the juice worth the squeeze with him? Are you going to do it? I will stand up to this day and say, I think he will pitch this year, but I completely understand why teams step back and say, like, until you prove to us that you're a different man and that you're not an internet troll and you're not.
But how do you find that out? But David, how do you find that out unless you bring him in and kick the tires on him? Like, I'm shocked that nobody's even just said, hey, let's find out. You could cut your losses. He says he's willing to play for the minimum. Bring him in and you cut your losses if he winds up being a jerk.
That's always
nobody needs pitching.
How do you know?
You're telling me that none of these teams need a guy that's a former Cy Young Award winner. I mean, really? That's what I can't understand.
I think they all do, and I think they all have their own problems. They all have almost every single team in baseball right now, besides probably the Dodgers. Couldn't take it to former Cy Young. I think the Dodgers have enough of them right now at this point. And there's 29 teams that would probably could use them without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's that hard question is how do you now in 2000, this isn't 2000. In 2024, how do you answer to half your fan base when you're trying to market out to not just dudes hanging out drinking a beer? How do you market this to a family? How do you market to a woman? And that's questions they're asking themselves. And a lot of people are apparently are with the answer of saying, not worth it.
The Pirates had no problem signing Domingo Germán.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
It's there.
It just doesn't wash for me that that's it. Like the stamp is there, the scarlet letter is there, and he just can't get out from under it. But I agree with you. I think somebody will take a chance on him. Couple of quick hitters here because I only got about 90 seconds, unfortunately. Best hitter you ever saw while sitting in the dugout watching a game through all your years in the league. I asked this of Aaron Boone once, and he always said Miguel Cabrera. What would your answer be?
Miguel Cabrera, great hitter, incredible hitter. There's an easy answer, and then I'll skip that. That's Barry Bonds. Just throw that out the window. The next best hitter, Manny Ramirez. I never saw somebody so patient, knowing in a bat an entire game exactly waiting for one pitch. We saw in Baltimore, got struck out. Fastball, out. Fastball, out. Fastball, curveball, 3-run home run, changed the game. Incredible. I've never seen it. Just sat there, never swung the bat until that one pitch. Barry's in a different level. It's not baseball anymore with him. Is Barry than everybody else and Manny Ramirez.
Love it. David Aardsma. I wish I had more time. We're gonna have to have you on for like a whole show during baseball season and just hang out and talk baseball and everything else. This was a lot of fun. Glad we got to do it. Let's do it again soon. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, David Aardsma. Always good to chat with him for a few minutes on the show. We are coming back. Lots more to do on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Don't you go anywhere. All right, getting set to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Sammy Arnell returns tomorrow. If you miss anything from the show, it's real simple. Maybe the particular station you're watching us on doesn't carry the show every day or different times. We have something called the Vodcast. It's available on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, you name it. We are on all of them. Go and subscribe. Simple as that. Time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. NFL mulling an end to the hip drop tackle. I know. Most of you out there had no idea what it was. I get it. Kickoff changes are also being discussed at league meetings, the annual league meetings next week. So the competition committee is looking at a new type of kickoff that was used in the XFL during the 2020 and 2023 season. The kickoff proposal, according to Kevin Seifert at ESPN, would be a really dramatic change for the league. And right now, kickoff returns are irrelevant. There is very little excitement in kickoff returns. You might still get it in punts, but the league, by virtue of trying to make the kickoffs more safe and keep those violent collisions from happening, they've essentially made the kickoff moot because most of them are touchbacks. So, in essence, this is the league trying to find a balance between those collisions, but also returning excitement to the kickoff, which everybody gets excited for. 24 of 32 owners would have to approve it. In this new rule, the kicker would continue to kick from the 35-yard line, but the other 10 players would line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line, and at least 9 members of the return team would line up in a setup zone between the 35 and 30-yard line. You'd get 2 returners can line up in a landing zone between... You know what? I'm done. I'm done. This is way too complicated. And most fans will say, wake me up when it's the regular season and we'll talk about it. Hip drop tackles could be eliminated. A lot of lower body injuries in that. So we'll see what happens. That's what's going on as far as rule changes are concerned. Bit of a disturbing story in the NFL today. And it involves somebody from the Detroit Lions, Cameron Sutton, who is wanted. There's an arrest warrant out for him for his alleged involvement in a domestic violence case. They're talking about domestic battery by strangulation. This is in Florida. The Lions corner had an interception last year for the team. I think he had 60 tackles, if I'm not mistaken. Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office telling ESPN police have been unable to locate Sutton since March 7th when the arrest warrant was issued. And that has to be a little bit disturbing. You wonder where the Lions are on this. How much do they know, and where Sutton is? Obviously something they're going to have to figure out. Lions said in a statement, "We became aware of the ongoing legal situation involving Cam Sutton this morning. We'll continue to monitor the situation. We'll not have any further comment at this time." He is 29 years old. Again, he started all 17 games for the Lions last year. So it's obviously something that makes a difference for them, and it's a disturbing story and something we see far too often. Look, professional sports mirror everyday life. These things happen in everyday life, unfortunately, and sometimes athletes get wrapped up in it as well. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to sit out for the Bucks tonight as Milwaukee takes on the Celtics. And this is one of those opportunities where Doc Rivers' team could have sort of tested what they are against this top team in the Eastern Conference. Giannis dealing with a left hamstring injury, so he will miss tonight's game. And this is the problem with back-to-backs. Giannis averaging almost 31 a game, 11 rebounds, career highs in assists, field goal percentage, but he will have to sit this one out tonight. And again, this is what you get in the NBA with some of these back-to-backs and teams trying to rest guys up. Giannis Antetokounmpo will sit out tonight for this Milwaukee Bucks team as they try to chase down the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. And when you look at the standings in the East right now, Boston at 54-14, and Milwaukee right now for them just trying to hang on to that number 2 seed, which allows them to avoid the Celtics all the way up to the Eastern Conference Finals should they continue to advance in the postseason when we get there. The Cavs right now at number 3, as Kurt Helin and I were talking about on the show a little while ago. And the Cavs at 3 with the Knicks at number 4. And frankly, you could still wind up with a lot of movement in the East, really between 2 and 5, because you have the Bucks at number 2 at 24 losses and the Knicks at number 4 with 27 losses, and even the Magic, at number 5 at 28. And I will continue to say this. One of the best stories not being told in the NBA this year is the story of the Orlando Magic, who have been awful. Just downright awful for so many years and are now a factor in the Eastern Conference. Nobody's talking about Orlando. We talk about those teams in the West that nobody wants to play. Orlando's that team in the East nobody wants to play. Because I don't even think they realize how good they are yet. It's going to do it for us. We'll see you back here on Thursday for more Sports Wrap.